Why do you feel the warnings surrounding drug driving are relevant to young people today?
We have seen a lot of fatalities on the road because of drug driving and because of drink driving. It is important that the message gets through to the young people to make sure that they never ever drug drive.
Young people should be thinking of their future, and the partaking and taking of drugs can have serious consequences for young people down the road.
The drugs that young people are taking, they have no knowledge of actually what's in them. They're usually street drugs, and people are taking these when they haven't already formed a good basis of driving in the first place. So when their judgment becomes impaired, when they're taking these drugs and they're put into situations that they haven't had experience of before, it only is going to lead to one thing, and that's going to be problems.
There's been a 106% increase in the first 6 months of this year in drug driving detections compared to the first 6 months of 2019. Now that's a startling statistic when we bear in mind that we went into lockdown in this country.
People have become affluent and money has become more plentiful. As a consequence, young people are getting involved in drugs.
Obviously, driving licence is a big rite of passage for every young person, and every young person can't wait to get driving. But more and more, we're seeing young people being put off the road because they're being detected with drugs in their system when driving cars.
The numbers are going up and they're frightening. Nowadays, when we have tested on the roadside for drug driving, in 68% of those drivers where the drug test was positive, cannabis was found in their system. So this is a worrying trend. We need to reverse this trend.
Social media is such a massive thing now that people want to look good and everything else, so I'll just take a line of this or a smoke of that. But yes, young people are getting more and more involved. There's peer pressure, people are seeking that high, little bit of excitement and availability. There's a huge amount of availability that there wasn't in the past. Every drug affects the body in a different way, and every body affects the drug in a different way, which is something that we don't remember.
It can affect your short-term memory, it can give you paranoia, and you may see things which are not really there. You can get mixed up with the reality and imagination. You can't separate both, which is called psychosis. So it's not safe to take cannabis and drive.
Altered sense of colour, sense of time, and it's impairing their body movement. These are probably three of the main things that someone needs to be in control of a car, a mechanically propelled vehicle. So if your sense of time and movement and colour and your reactions are slowed down or inhibited, you just shouldn't be driving a car.
The equipment that the guards are currently using on the roads to test for drugs, it will test for the active ingredient, the THC, for 6 hours after taking it. But they would recommend you don't drive after taking cannabis for 24 hours.
Cannabis, it can stay in your system and it can be detected by the roadside drug test within 2 to 3 days actually.
Hi, how are you? We're performing a mandatory intoxicant test and checkpoint this evening. Okay, have you a driving licence, please?
Yeah, I do.
Thank you. Okay, I'm now going to give you the requirement under section 10(4)(b) of the Road Traffic Act 2010 to provide for me a specimen of your oral fluid to an apparatus designed to indicate the presence of drugs in oral fluid. Okay? Failure or refusal to comply with the requirement is an offence under the same Act, punishable to a fine not exceeding €5,000 and or to prison not exceeding 6 months. Okay? So I'm going to hand you this apparatus, okay, and I want you to swab it around your mouth, and when it turns blue at the bottom I want you to hand it back to me, okay?
Okay. So this part here?
Yeah, just swab it around your mouth.
Yeah.
That's perfect. Thank you. I'm just going to put it into the drugs machine, okay?
Okay.
We have a machine called the Draeger 7000, and the machine after 9 minutes will analyse that stick with the saliva on it and will give you a positive or a negative reading for cannabis, cocaine, if that person has been taking any of the drugs.
The sample has tested positive for cannabis. Okay, so I'm going to ask you to step out of the car, please. I'm arresting you under Section 48 of the Road Traffic Act 2010 for an offence contrary to Section 41A of the Road Traffic Act, okay? So, in other words, I'm arresting you on suspicion of drug driving. Okay, you're not obliged to say anything unless you wish to do so, but you do say you're taken down right and may be given evidence, okay? And I'm just going to take you over to the car now, okay?
The immediate consequences of a positive drugs test on the side of the road for the driver is arrest, taken to the Garda station where they will be observed for 20 minutes. A doctor will be called to take a blood or urine sample. The sample will then be sent to the Medical Bureau of Road Safety for analysis, and depending on what the result of that sample, if it's positive for drugs or whatever drugs, cannabis, cocaine, amphetamines, whatever, that person will end up getting a summons or a charge sheet for court and will end up in front of the district court.
We will have the accident. We don't tend to know until afterwards that the person has been taking drugs before driving. We did have a gentleman a number of years ago who at 10 o'clock on a Saturday morning had a horrendous car accident, but he totaled his own car. He had severe lacerations to his liver, his kidneys, head injuries, collapsed lungs. He had it all. And when his blood test eventually came back, it showed that he had cocaine and morphine, two completely different kind of drugs, one up, one down in his system. And that was 10 o'clock in the morning. So who was he going to meet on the road? He was going to meet your mum and your little sister driving to a piano lesson, or he was going to meet, people, young people going to football. He was going to meet the elderly person going to get their shopping. It's not just about you. When you're getting into a car, you've now turned the car into a weapon.
Well, these incidents are devastating, to be honest with you. You're seeing people in the worst time of their lives, they got life-changing injuries, obviously for them and obviously for their families as well. They just don't know the consequences, I feel, and you're going to have probably the small majority that just doesn't care. It's never going to happen to me, but unfortunately, these things do happen, and unfortunately there's innocent people that's been involved in these collisions as well, and obviously losing their lives too,
Or mental health wise, you can have less satisfaction in life. You can drop out from your schools, and you won't get job satisfaction either. Your relationship problems, domestic abuse, psychotic episodes, and you can end up with long-term problems, psychiatric problems.
You're feeling low, you've lost your job, your insurance has gone up, plus this chemical reaction that's going on in the brain, so you're not coming from probably a great state anyways, so it can be very detrimental to somebody.
Staff feels sad actually to see young people wasting their life. It's an awful waste of life to waste it on drugs. If you take long-term cannabis, then what you can get is that for younger people, their IQ can drop 8 points actually, and they can perform less well at school, and some of them can leave actually school altogether.
Another consequence would be if you want to travel to the United States or Australia, if you have a conviction for anything to do with drugs, the chances of you getting a visa even to visit the United States is slim. If you have a conviction for drug taking in this country and you need Garda vetting, particularly for employment, it will come back and bite you. The long-term and consequences of that conviction can be very serious for that person. If they're looking to do teaching, anything to do with minding children, there will be Garda vetting, and that record of that conviction will come to fore. That will determine whether that person gets the job from the people that are looking to employ them.
You think it's only going to be for the next 10-15 minutes. It's not. This is not just about now. You're taking that drug now. you're running the risk of murdering people. You're running the risk of hurting yourself, your friends, your family, and changing your life forever. And you cannot get that back. You cannot get that back.